This one get started. This is our first episode of the Bose Bros Media Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Bose.
I'm your other host, Jordan Bose.
And today we're going to be talking about cars. So let's just go and get started. So first up on the list, there are some news segments we should probably talk about. I know we've talked about this personally, and on this podcast, we're going to try not to get too political, but considering this does have a significant impact in the car enthusiast world, I felt it was worth mentioning. So California has a new speed limit bill. It's known as SB 961. It's part of the Safer California Streets legislation package. It was introduced by California Senator Scott Wiener.
Yes. Okay. Have you seen a picture of him?
I have.
He looks like if Gumby fell into a taffy puller. He's this long, skinny, wiener-looking dude, and his name is Scott Wiener.
Like I said, we're going to try not to get too political. And this applies to every passenger vehicle, motor truck, and bus manufactured or sold in the state of California, starting with the 2027 model year. Emergency vehicles would be exempt, so I assume government vehicles, first responders and everything, but government vehicles. So what does it do, though? So the exact text of the law is it's electronically limit the speed of the vehicle to prevent the driver from exceeding the speed limit by more than 10 miles per hour. So in essence, if you have a car sold in California, 2027 or later, it has to have an internal GPS that has all the roadways in California mapped and knows what the speed limits are and will physically not allow your vehicle to go over 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. The reasoning behind this, I'll get your impressions in just a minute. The rationale, to be fair, California traffic fatalities increased by 22% from 2019 to 2022. And when asked whether or not, I assume this is where you're going to go, this type of government intervention would be considered an overreach, a senator from California stated, quote, "I don't think it's at all an overreach."
What if you live near a farm and there's dirt roads near your house? So everything's sold in California. What is it going to do? Turn off your car? It doesn't know what the speed limits are because those aren't mapped roads. What do you do?
I don't know.
Or are they totally cool with you going 300 miles an hour as long as you're on a dirt road? But all that stuff aside, it doesn't make any sense.
If I had to guess, I don't know this. If I had to guess, it just wouldn't be active on roadways that aren't mapped.
What's to stop them from restricting your car more than they said they would? Just gonna believe them? Like, no.
So theoretically, with throttle control, the throttle of the vehicle being electronically controlled and limited by GPS, theoretically, you can imagine it's not a leap. It's a very small step to imagine a world where they could just not allow your car to go anywhere.
Yeah.
What if they just said, actually, we want to question you about something and we're just not going to let your car leave your house today?
You haven't paid your taxes.
And
this is whatever the reasoning is.
This is an even bigger problem because the other stuff going on in California, i.e. hate speech laws, that you're not allowed to say things that bother people. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you say something that bothers somebody on the internet and then someone...
No, you can't drive your car.
Yeah, you called someone, as you said, "Thank you, have a nice day, sir," but he identified as like I don't know, just anything else.
Well, then we're not letting you leave work today because we have to talk to you.
Right, yeah, we're going to catch up to you because you said things we don't like.
That's,
And let's not pretend this doesn't happen in the West. There was a guy who had taught his pug to do a Nazi salute. Which
I remember that.
Is funny. Before anything else, is funny.
Don't laugh.
It is funny.
We really know what
he was arrested for that.
He
was arrested for posting a video of his pug doing a Nazi salute.
I mean,
and this is in England. This is not like some.
The Canadian truckers of 2020 had their bank accounts frozen and like other things.
Right. So is it really that hard to believe that you're going to say something that offends somebody online and then they're going to turn off your ability to drive away or go home, or even heck, you're not allowed to go to work until we come to your house and talk to you and interrogate you about your opinions, and we just need you to go through this re-education program.
Theoretically, it could. I'm not saying this is what would happen. But what's to prevent the system from not allowing you to leave the state without explicit permission?
There you go. There's so many ways for abuse. And if you don't want them to overuse the power, you cannot grant them the power in the first place.
There is a long and storied history of government abusing power that they've been given. And in very few circumstances have they ever relinquished any additional power that they've been given. So it's a one-way street, no pun intended. But
don't get me wrong. I hate the 130 mile an hour Nissan Altimas on the highway as much as everybody else, or the Dodge Chargers, or the BMW 3 Series. They're all the same kind of buyer.
Yeah.
Of these people that are going 130 miles an hour. I hate them more than anyone. But I still think that if they want to go die in a fiery car crash, hopefully they just don't take anybody else with them.
Yeah. So it's important to state this is just a proposed piece of legislation. There's no reason to indicate it's not something that's about to be passed into law, but it's there. It's in the ethos. It's something that if it's not implemented now, there's a possibility it could happen in the future. So,
yeah, but it's a direction they want to head is a problem.
Yep.
So Mr. Wiener, which I'm sure was a very, very easy to name to make fun of as a child, and maybe that's how we got here. Maybe we just need to stop bullying the kids with bad last names because then we end up with this.
Well, the important thing is he doesn't think it's an overreach. So
yeah, whatever.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to your segment.
Tesla charging standardization. So a lot of companies are switching over from...
What's the landscape look like right now?
As a Tesla owner?
As an electric vehicle owner at all. Like, what does it look like to... Because a lot of people don't have electric vehicles, and that's the biggest deterrent. What does it look like right now to own an electric vehicle?
Owning an electric car that is not a Tesla is owning something that is deeply inconvenient and too expensive. Owning a Tesla is something that is not that inconvenient and expensive.
What do you drive?
A Tesla. So driving and charging the Tesla, easy as pie. We have never been stranded by a Tesla charging station. We've rarely had any kind of technical issue with the charging network. And you can, up and down, you will find Tesla owners have the best experience as far as a charging network. Tesla's charging network has a 99+% uptime. And uptime just means what percentage of the time any given unit is online, and then average that across all of their units. It's
almost the equivalent of owning a gas-powered vehicle. When you own a gas-powered vehicle, you drive to any gas station and you don't question, is the pump going to work? Is it going to fit in? Is the nozzle going to fit into my gas tank? Is it going to just trickle out? Is it going to actually give me the full...
You don't have to worry about it, but
you just drive up and fill up.
How often do you show up at a gas pump in one or two of their
It happens occasionally.
Yeah. You would say that...
I'd say 99% of the time.
99% of the time, it's fine. When I drove a diesel car, it was more difficult to find places to fill up than it is to find a place to charge my Tesla.
So driving a Tesla, or driving a vehicle that isn't a Tesla, that is not the experience.
That is not the experience. So on one occasion, I let my charge get way too low. It got down to like 3% when I got to the bar, and I was like, it's fine. There are 7 non-Tesla charging areas right next to where I'm at. I'll stop for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, have enough charge to get to a supercharger. But of the 7, in the next 2 hours, I managed to get 1.5% of charge. I didn't get home until after 3 in the morning. On paper, they're still slow.
But not that slow.
Yes. The vast majority charge at 6 kilowatts. The slowest Tesla supercharger charges at 150 kilowatts.
So what does the standardization mean for people who don't drive Teslas?
So there's 2 kinds. There's the North American Charging Standard, which is NACS, and that is what Tesla uses. They designed it. Technology Connections has a great video on the differences between that and CCS. CCS is what everybody else uses. The benefit of NACS is it's a sleeker plug. It can output all of the current necessary to charge your car at supercharging speeds. It's a better deterrent against vandals, because on the CCS charger you have to push down on a lever to unlock it, and there's no like way for your car to know that it's done charging. It's just not as elegant of a solution. The NACS is a much cleaner, well thought out solution to the actual act of charging. It's also connected to a network of chargers that actually work
consistently and at the advertised speed.
Right.
Okay.
What's happening is that a large percentage of the EV market is now going to NACS.
So they're adopting Tesla's solution and just abandoning CCS.
Which
is that starting this year? They're starting to...
In the next couple of years. So I think it's most of the EV manufacturers. There's a handful that aren't involved, but almost everybody's switching to NACS, which means one really big thing for people who are buying electric cars right now. Do not buy a CCS vehicle, because in 3 or 4 years, it's going to be effectively worth nothing. Wow. Because what development is going to be happening on the CCS charging network that for the moment still isn't up to speed, and you're expecting that to be, as good as NACS when now next to nobody is using it.
It's like buying
it's not gonna happen.
HD DVD player in 2007 when it was pretty clear Blu-ray was going to be the standard going forward. So that is generally good news for the EV industry.
It is, but if you're looking to buy an electric car, even though that EV9 looks really cool and seems to be a really great vehicle,
it's good. As it's poorly maintained and standardized the CCS network is now, when you have manufacturers abandoning it left and right, it's gonna be even worse. Completely fall.
So your entire car will be only as good as the adapter you buy to plug into the Tesla network. Bottom line is, don't buy a CCS car right now. You're asking for trouble because you're not going to be able to sell it. No one's going to buy it. And if it doesn't exist already, it will soon. That when you're searching online for cars, you're going to have, instead of a check mark box for manual versus automatic or all-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, it's going to be a CCS versus NACS checkbox. Logan brought that up. I think that is a good point. Okay. That basically you're going to have all these cars for sale that have CCS on it, and they're going to be worth next to nothing.
But you'll see some really good deals on EVs in the coming years, and you'll be tempted to pull the trigger. But it's important consumer advice to keep in mind that it may work today, it may work tomorrow, but you're increasingly going to have a harder time finding a way to adequately charge your vehicle as time goes on if you buy a vehicle with a CCS charger. All right. Well, that concludes the news we wanted to cover. Let's get to our first discussion segment. Hot takes.
These yours or mine?
These are mine.
All right.
These are my hot takes.
Let's see what you got for hot takes. How hot on the Scoville scale?
Well, you tell me. You tell me how hot this take is.
Okay.
My hot take number 1. Auto-locking doors are a garbage design. Garbage. And what I mean by auto-locking doors, there are certain vehicles. I know Toyota did it. I don't know if they still do it. And I don't know if it's a feature you can turn off. If you can, it's less of a big deal. If you can't turn it off, then this is a huge problem. You leave your car unlocked, and after a certain amount of time, the doors lock themselves. Which sounds great. You won't ever accidentally leave your car unlocked. But some of these systems are so dumb. If you leave your keys in the car for any reason and just step away from the vehicle, intending to come back to it, the doors will lock and lock your keys in there. And on top of that, imagine a scenario like you're coming back and forth from the car to bring in groceries or something, like a very normal scenario.
You live in an apartment complex. You want to close the door every time you take a trip.
Yeah, but you don't want to... You're carrying groceries and things back, or you're loading something in. You can imagine how annoying it's going to be every single time you want to open the doors to have to fish your keys out and unlock it. It's terrible.
It senses that you come and you just have to open the handle.
Newer cars do.
Newer cars do, but some of them you still have to get the key out and push the button or push it through your pocket or whatever.
It's such a small sliver of the market.
You don't think that's
way more convenient than inconvenient? My mom literally doesn't know where her keys are. She just knows they're in her purse and she can get into her car, and that's it.
That's fine. We're talking about just sitting there in the garage. Your van would just lock itself. Not if you step away. It's just after 45 seconds, the doors just lock.
I mean, as long as you have your keys on you, it's fine.
The only
don't.
the only cars I've ever interacted with that had that, I've always hated it.
I think this mostly applies to vehicles where they're like, is before we had the technology for cars to acknowledge that the keys were still in the vehicle.
It's like I said, such a tiny sliver of the market that
Is that-
you get mad about.
So I'm being
Eric,
ridiculous?
I would say that's not that hot of a take because people that have experienced it are like, I know exactly what you're talking about and I agree.
But
I
it's
don't
like,
think you're going to
how
lot
many
of...
car models and like what year?
But it's not really a problem anymore because basically all new cars
No,
will
the
know
keys
if the
there.
keys are in the car.
So you're really like...
I just really hate this one.
it's like you're worried about, how annoying it is to start up a steam engine.
All right. So it's not that hot of a take. Okay. Second take. This one I think should be a little toasty. We drive on the right side of the road. And I mean we drive on the correct side of the road. And that the right side of the road is, in fact, the right side of the road to drive on.
Give me 2 reasons. Boil it down to 2 reasons.
2 reasons. Okay? Reason number 1. Most people, present company excluded, are right-handed. Okay? Both of you are left-handed. Most of the world is right-handed. So if you're driving and you're on the left side of the vehicle, if you're driving on the right side of the road, you're sitting on the left side of the vehicle. Most people are right-handed. And so you operate everything with your dominant hand. Whoops. You operate everything with your dominant hand while you're driving, which makes sense to me. And I know this is kind of a niche thing because there aren't that many anymore, and we'll talk about that. Manual transmissions, they don't change the shifting order, typically, for a manual transmission when they put it on the left or right side of the car.
Pretty sure Japanese market does.
Maybe they do, but for
I
most
know
of them,
Japanese market changes which side the signal
the
is.
signal and everything are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most people are right-handed. You operate everything on the right side of the car if you're driving on the right side of the road. And additionally, if you're shifting a manual transmission, most of your shifting is done in your lower gears, right? Like you'd spend most of your time shifting first, second, third, right? That is closer to you by design. When you flip it to the driver to the other side of the car, they don't flip the sequence of the gears typically. It's further away. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it is further away and you're shifting toward yourself. There's 2 good reasons. I think they're good reasons.
The left side of the road is better because your dominant hand is on the steering wheel.
I mean,
I know you're not doing anything complicated.
your dexterity is better with your right hand. And I mean, for me personally, I'm only operating things if I'm in a situation where I'm confident that I can do something. And my left hand is not doing any driving. It's just holding the wheel momentarily while I change the radio station or adjust the climate. So if I had to pick one hand I had to drive with permanently, I guess I'd pick my dominant hand. But by virtue of the situation, I'm not doing anything in that moment with my
I
left
think
hand.
I think Australians might take umbrage with that.
Why? Well, I mean, because they drive on the other side of the road.
You're
But
right.
still.
I think British people might take umbrage with that. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of disagreement among Americans.
Yeah.
And I think you gave some good reasons. Just trying to play devil's advocate.
No, you're right. Now, I should probably preface this. It doesn't super matter. But if you're going to just say one is right, I feel like I have some empirical, actual
There's reasons. Yeah.
reasons why. Now, it doesn't super matter. But if you're going to say one is better than the other, I think the right side of the road is, in fact, the right side of the road. All right, finally, my last hot take of the day. Modern cars are over-engineered. I don't think this is too hot of a take.
No, this is about as hot as a cup of coffee left out for an hour.
I mean, a lot of people like the convenience and the comfort that all the technology of a modern car brings.
Well, it depends on how you phrase the question. If you phrase the question, do you like having extra features in your car? People are going to say yes. But if you say, do you think your car is too complicated? People are going to say, yeah.
I think if you could cut the price tag down, like, oh, would you buy a car that was $30,000 less that didn't have every bell and whistle on it? A lot of people would probably be fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But how much weight and cost did the X feature add to
Right.
the car? Now, I think we're a bit in a bubble because you and I do a lot of our own work on our cars. So for us, it's just one more thing that could possibly break. and one more thing that's going to get in the way of something else we have to fix, right? Like you take, I'll just use a random example, a 72 CUDA. Right?
Oh yeah, one that you've never interacted with before.
Right? Everything's very easy to get to. Now, it doesn't have airbags, it doesn't have seat warmers, doesn't have lane keep assist, or rear cross path detection, or blind spot monitoring.
It's essentially a
cruise control. It doesn't have any of that. So, yeah, those are nice to have features. Now, on the other side of the coin, if you're someone who does a lot of the work on your vehicle yourself, it's kind of nice that you don't have to worry about all these other things getting in the way of whatever work you're trying to do. Because all that stuff adds weight, it adds complexity, and there's just more things that can go wrong.
But you named safety features. How many lives have been saved because of...
Oh, yeah.
Because my mom seriously cannot drive a car without those basic, my car doesn't have safety features.
Yeah.
But I think you're talking about hard play and seat warmers. And
For example,
coolers.
something I don't care about, when we get out of our minivan, the seat moves back, so it's easier to get in and out.
I mean, if you're a fat person or pregnant, that's nice.
That's true. But then again, would I have bought the car if it didn't have that feature? Totally.
What do you think about the cars that have all the features built in and then you pay a subscription to access them?
Like BMW and Tesla?
Mm-hmm.
That's its own topic.
BMW's got a subscription model for their heated seats.
The rear seat heaters, right?
Yeah. It's absurd to me that you would pay a subscription to use. So here's the best example I've seen of this that is actually an interesting thing. There's a company that sells airbag jackets for motorcycle riders. The airbag will deploy if you are thrown off of the bike. Mm-hmm. And they are proven to be extremely helpful in keeping people safe. They're very effective. Mm-hmm. You can purchase one, I don't remember the company name, but you can purchase one that is subscription based. So if you don't pay it that month, well, you can just die. Well, that sounds terrible, but you can buy the whole thing outright and never pay a subscription, but it's like 5 times the price. You can buy it for like $600 or $700 and then pay the monthly subscription.
Or what's the that's how our fire service is, the rural metro. You're supposed to subscribe. What's I didn't pay the fee like the one time, just like you saved my life, so now I owe you an arm and a leg.
Now, how fast is their app? If I see them about to be in an accident, I quickly.
I'm not sure it's that quick, but you
just pay $5,000 if it happens to save your life.
I can see that point, because if they're looking at this as benevolently as I can, if they're truly altruistic and just trying to make people safer, if this is a $5,000 jacket, most people aren't going to buy it.
Right.
If you're trying to get it to as many hands as possible,
that's what I was going to bring up.
Bring down the barrier of entry so that it's just a subscription base. Now, if it would deploy regardless of your subscription payment, nobody would pay the subscription. The company would cease to exist in about a month.
Right.
Didn't that happen with a company with like a kid that happened in a car? The car was stolen. There was a child in the car. It was Volvo or somebody. And they wouldn't activate because they weren't paying for the subscription, so they wouldn't activate it until law enforcement got involved. This happened last year.
Wow.
The parents are just trying to track their car to find their baby, and they're like, "Well, you haven't paid the fee, so we're not going to do it for you." And law enforcement went around it. It was fine.
That's rough.
Yeah, you have to kind of weigh the optics on that one.
Yeah, the benefit of the jacket thing is, like you said, you get more jackets in more people's hands, and the second side of that is, who's riding around on a motorcycle when it's negative 20 degrees out? If you're in a cold climate, you get 4 months, 5 months of motorcycle weather, and you're only paying for that jacket 4 or 5 months of the year.
And it's cheaper to buy it initially, and then you just subscribe when you need to. So that is the best option to get it in most hands.
But if you phrase it the way I phrased it initially, which is, well, if you don't pay, then I guess you can just die. Then it sounds terrible.
I mean, to be a little bit fair, the hardware that goes into warming the seats is probably negligible.
As far as cost?
As far as cost.
I doubt. Nope.
You don't think so?
No, because those units, they're purchased in bulk and each one costs very little. But there are many, many hours that go into debating and designing things to save pennies per car, because per car cost is huge. If you can save 20 cents per car, for example, Mercedes-Benz doesn't use amber taillights in the United States on some of their cars because they can get away with using red ones because they cost like 8 cents less per car, and that's on the S-Class.
That's an expensive car.
That's a car that costs $200,000 on the high end,
Yeah.
and they'll save 8 cents a car and go with red tail lamps in the United States because it's somehow cheaper, and they go amber tail lamps in their other markets because they're required to have amber turn signals, whatever it is.
Real quick tangent from the little bit of like business experience I have. I could tell you, it's 20 times more effective to cut costs than to try to increase revenue. So if you can reduce your operating costs, that's just free money.
Well, I'm sure it's reducing costs by not having to like sell so many different options of
That is the point I was getting at.
Yeah, fewer SKUs.
Compared to having to complicate the manufacturing process, the cost added to that is significantly more than the cost of whatever the hardware is going into the car.
Mm-hmm.
It's more expensive to train different people and to have two different lines for ones that get heated back seats and ones that don't. It's probably just way cheaper to say, look, we're going to put rear seat heaters in all the cars and then just make it a switch you could flip on. And then if you're someone who lives in a cold climate and you want to keep your kids toasty in the back, then you can pay the $5 a month. The optics aren't good on it.
No, and it's mostly the precedent that's not good.
Yes.
Because then all of a sudden you're going to buy a whole car. They'll say, hey, we would have charged you double, but now you can just pick and choose cafeteria style, all the features you want. And then by the time you add all of it up, you're paying double the car payment.
I mean, that's how everything is, though.
Right. And I just hate it. So
yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
We can move on to my hot takes.
All right, let's hear them. All right.
So
Give me your hot takes, Jordan.
Hottest. EV lamentations are overblown. People getting so hot and bothered about all of our favorite cars are disappearing. It's overblown. And on the other side, people that are saying, EVs are the wave of the future and we want everybody in EVs and it's going to happen so fast. It's all overblown. Everyone cool your heels. I think everyone is just way too excited.
Let me get this straight. Your strong opinion is that everyone has too strong of opinions.
On this one, yes. And yet, I will die on this hill that no one should be dying on their hills.
Yeah.
Everyone just calm down.
So you're on both sides of this particular divide. You're saying people who are all in on EV are way too excited and are way too optimistic, and people who are anti-EV are
way too pessimistic.
Way too pessimistic. Okay.
It through any transition you talk about, it's never as bad or as amazing as anyone thinks.
Right.
Let's all just cool our heels.
If you don't play Taylor Swift over this clip, I will rage.
Why?
Then you need to calm down, clip.
I don't even.
I'd love to, but then my video couldn't get monetized.
Yeah,
It's not
and
under a certain number of seconds. You don't have to have a.
Possibly. I don't want Taylor Swift's lawyers coming out.
I do have one word to describe Taylor Swift. This might be a hot
No,
take.
you can shut up about her.
All
Just
right.
the
No,
word.
next hot
it's
take.
not that bad.
Small, efficient engines
Inescapable.
are good.
That's how I would describe her.
Okay.
That's not me.
I've seen what Swifties do to people. Don't drag me into this. Your hot take, please.
Small, efficient engines are good for everybody.
Okay.
I'm talking.
Aren't you a Mopar
Mm-hmm.
guy?
Mhm.
You like big V8s?
I do. And small, efficient engines are good for those people.
Okay. Elucidate.
If more of the market is getting more efficient, the need to crack down on the performance cars is getting less. So sure, let the people who don't care about driving and don't care about the experience of owning a fun car, let them drive their 2-liter turbo 3-row SUV or whatever it is. Go ahead. Let them be as efficient as they like. No one should be complaining about a car you're not going to buy has an engine you don't like.
We've got the Dodge Journey that just sucks.
The Dodge Journey is a perfect example. It had the 2.4 Tiger Shark engine. And it was a 7-seater SUV with a 2.4 naturally aspirated, not even turbocharged engine. And that thing was so underpowered. If you went uphill with more than a few people in the car, it would turn off your ability to use the air conditioning because it took too much of the horsepower.
But I mean, that sold really well, didn't it?
It did. And I never bought one. And I didn't have to care.
It's similar to people lamenting free-to-play games having microtransactions.
Well, just don't play them and don't buy anything.
Or play them, but don't buy the stuff. But don't make fun of the people that do buy the stuff because they're the ones subsidizing.
That's a step too far.
They're the ones subsidizing your ability to play for free. How many hours does Dad put in Apex Legends?
Gosh, the lifetime of my children.
How much money has he put into that game?
Somewhere rounding $0.
$0. And he can only do that because some 12-year-old somewhere got a hold of their dad's credit card and bought every cosmetic in the game. So it's the same thing. People can drive their small, efficient engines. That's good because most people don't care, right? And that does leave room for some enthusiasts to have.
And what you want...
or budget's more important to them, and that allows them to get into that kind of car.
You want the people doing the school run burning up all the pterodactyl juice? Or you want it for yourself?
Yeah. Next take.
Stanced cars are a good addition to the culture for one specific reason. Do we all know what stanced cars are?
I know what stanced cars are.
When they're slammed all the way down to the ground.
We'll show a picture.
And the wheels are tilted in at the top. It's called negative camber. And I don't know if you've seen these cars driving around.
They're super low.
And the reason I like stanced cars, and I think that they are good for the car community, is that they let you know from a distance who not to talk to.
Jeez.
Because if you're like, hey, I want to talk to someone who doesn't like chew crayons for breakfast, that's a good way to be like, oh, there's one. I'm not going to talk to him.
Try to be objective for just a second.
Okay.
On a very, very high level, highest of levels, 30,000 foot view, why do they have a car that's stanced instead of a normal car? Why?
Lack of imagination?
I think they just like it.
Right.
They just like the way it looks.
Yeah.
They know it's impractical. They know it doesn't make a lot of sense.
They know it's going to break over every speed bump.
They know it's going to break easily. They know they have to do repairs on it. They know it's not very efficient.
They know their tires only last 300 miles.
They know that. They willingly accept that and do it anyway because it's something they like.
Mm-hmm.
I drive a 1970 Cuda that is horribly inefficient.
72.
Thank you. Horribly inefficient. I've done tons of repairs on it. It's not practical. It's not really safe, but I like it. And it has a place in the car community just by virtue of having people that like having it. If you have enough people that like a thing, then it's part of the community. Whether someone who's not part of it likes it or doesn't like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but here's the issue. You go take good cars and you do that to them. It's like...
What if it wasn't a good car? What if it was just a crappy car that no one...
Like they just wanted to stance Honda CR-V, which is a good car.
I mean that...
But just like...
Oh, cars want to be stance.
Yeah, which is a Honda CR-V is a fine car, but it's not a performance car. But if
it's not an enthusiast vehicle.
If you're going to go stance an S2000, there's a limited number of those. That is not like the small engine thing.
So you're perverting the pool of the...
Yeah.
Okay.
You're altering the car race.
Yes.
Yeah, what we need is a solution.
Okay. Okay. All right. Next. All right. You're going to rank 5 cars without knowing what's going to come next.
Got it.
First one. These are 80s exotics.
You're going to have to tell me what that is. That's a Ferrari F40.
It's Ferrari F40. 1 to 5. What do you rank it?
Well, let me real quick. You're gonna have a Countach. You're gonna have a DeLorean. You're gonna have you're gonna have maybe a Lamu 2 in there. But this has got to go. Maybe you'll have a Porsche 992 in there. This has got to go number 2. There might be something better than that.
Okay. And read the Countach.
Everybody loves this car. I don't get it. I don't get it. It looks like it's going to beat you up.
You don't like plastic?
To drive. I'm going to say 4 because it could be something worse.
Okay.
That's everybody loves and hates this car. This has the same division as the Cybertruck.
Okay.
I think if you could fix the problem of the rubbery nose, that would be a 1, but I'm going to have to give it a 3.
3? Behind the F40?
Behind the F40.
Okay.
This one...
959.
959 is That's a hell of a car. But I already took 2, 3, and 4. That's going to have to go in the 1 spot.
Number 1, okay.
What is this?
De Tomaso Pantera.
Oh, yeah. I was like, that. I've seen this before. 5 is fine. I don't care about that car.
Okay. Wow.
I think I did all right. I might have swapped the F40 and the 959, but...
Yeah. All right. Next segment. These are new SUVs being sold.
Oh.
The new Land Cruiser. I actually like the look of this car.
Me too. I like the Lexus version too.
All right. How do you rank it? You don't know what's next.
Starting strong, I'm going to say, because it's Toyota, it's going to last forever. I'm becoming more and more of a Toyota fan over time. I'm going to say that's probably number 1 to start.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So 392.
So 392. 2.
Jeep Wrangler. Number 2? Okay.
392 Wrangler Rubicon. That's got to be 2. I probably would have gone 1 with that one because it's really cool.
G-Wagon.
6? 6.
Only a 5.
Oh, 7.
Jeez. All right. 5. Bronco Raptor.
Bronco Raptor. That's comfortably behind the Wrangler. I'm going to say that's a 3.
Really? I would put that ahead of the Raptor.
Yeah, but there's something about a Hemi to my mind. There's something about a Hemi that really tickles me. It is really cool. It's got some great stuff that the Wrangler doesn't have, and it was beneficial for them to sort of the second mover advantage. They could do everything from breakover angle to approach and departure to gear ratios. They could do everything just like 10% better than the Wrangler, and then they did, and it's great. But there's something about a 392 that just tickles my fancy.
Okay. If they had put V8 in the Bronco, now you just like the Hemi.
I still like the 392.
And finally,
that's cool.
Range Rover Defender with the V8.
That's pretty cool, especially the short wheelbase one with the 2 doors. Mm-hmm. If I could redo it, I'd put the Bronco at the bottom, put this one at 4. But
you put this one at 5.
I'll put that one at 5.
No, you put.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I put the Bronco at 3. This one's at 4.
Yeah.
And what's the last one? It better not be something I really like.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah, the G-Wagon's 5.
Yep.
That's right. G-Wagon's
So
7.
Land Cruiser 1, Wrangler 2, G-Wagon 5, Bronco 3, Land Rover 4.
It's not usually that short looking, right? You just alter the picture.
The Land Rover?
The Land Rover?
No, you can get it 2-door or 4-door. You can also get a 4-door extended.
Car.
It is stubby, and you can get it with a V8, which is really cool.
Oh gosh, that sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, a nice short wheelbase for instability.
All right. Next segment. Rank these 5 cars without knowing what comes next.
Electric trucks.
Electric trucks.
Ooh, so when I say rank in the segment, I'm thinking about what is best representing that segment. And I would say...
Interpret it however you want. Just be consistent.
What is best representing that segment? I'm going to say this has got to be a 3.
3, okay. Middle of the road?
Yeah. 1.
Rivian. Number 1. Wow, no
1.
hesitation.
1.
Okay. R1T. He's going with the 1.
I only say that because I know a lot about all of these trucks.
Okay. Even with Jerry Rig Everything's video?
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Silverado EV.
5.
Okay.
Just as comfortably a 5.
Yeah.
Because you know what it is underneath is a Hummer.
But everything's scaled back.
Right. Everything's scaled back. And it's also GM engineered, which GM managed to get... I will say it was impressive with the Hummer. They managed to get a moon actually moving on 4 wheels. The thing weighs so much.
9,000 pounds?
And I don't know enough about this to know exactly what the weight is off the top of my head, but I have no faith in General Motors' ability to make that thing efficient through the air. Like, look at all the cuts and everything. Like, there's no way that thing is even remotely efficient. With the running boards, like, the whole point is range and towing ability, and you lose those when you add all this extra. Like, look at the rims. They didn't even bother putting in aero caps. Like, none of it makes 5.
5. Okay. Cybertruck.
It's got to be 2, but I have opinions on this.
I know you do, but we'll save that for a later segment. Hummer.
Crap. This needs to be 5.
Below the Silverado.
Well, it's got to be 4 because I already put the Silverado at 5. The reason I think it's so low is you can drive a Model 3 on the same size battery more than 3 times the distance. That's how inefficient that thing is. And I know it's a swan song to inefficiency and American excess and all that stuff, and I love it a little bit for that.
Yeah.
But is it going to get the job done as an electric truck? Is it going to do truck things? Is it going to do electric car things? Is it going to be effective? And the answer is no.
It will spend as much time off-road as the original ever two.
Right, which is basically none.
Yeah. So Ford Lightning 3, Rivian R1T 1, Silverado EV 5, Tesla Cybertruck 2, Hummer EV.
And Silverado both tied for
5. All right. My turn.
Rank blindly, muscle cars under 30K. Now, I know this one isn't under 30K.
I was going to say, where do you find a Charger for under 30K?
Charger V6.
Oh, gosh. Even that's hard to find under 30. We're talking used, right?
Well, no, we're talking new.
You can get a V6 Charger for 30K?
Well, we'll say in the last 2 years. We'll say recent or new, under 30,000. We'll say recent or new, under 30,000.
Okay.
V6.
Okay.
Charger.
4.
Oof.
Oh, boy.
You're gonna regret that. Camaro.
Ooh.
2.0 turbo.
Ooh. 3.
3. You're gonna put that above a Charger V6.
Yeah.
As a muscle car.
EcoBoost?
EcoBoost.
2.
2.
Actually, 1. I don't think it's going to get better than this.
Well, you're going to regret that too.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Challenger V6. Your enterprise special, as they say.
Yeah. Do I put it at a 2 or do I put it at a 5? I'm going to put it at a 2.
You will regret both, so.
Gosh. All right. What's the last one?
This last one was just another example of a Challenger, but what I wrote it out as was a used high horsepower option.
Oh.
So this is the SRT8 variant. Man. I put that at last for a reason.
Yeah, I probably would have put that higher, but hey. So I put V6 Charger 4.
So what's your number one? If you could do it over.
My number one would probably be the high horsepower
used option.
Of any of those?
Yeah, so
or of the Challenger.
Mustang GT, the Challenge, or the Camaro. You probably couldn't get a ZL1 or anything, but you could get.
I'd probably go with a high horsepower Mustang. You can get quite a bit of Mustang for under 30K.
You can get a Mustang GT 5.0, one that's been in like if you're a Mustang 4 or 5 accidents. It's
probably
that thing's probably basically yeah. Basically brand new as a Mustang is concerned. Yeah. You just got to get the wheelchair out from underneath it, and you're solid. Yeah, I would do the used high horsepower option. Same. Everybody I've asked this to has come with the used high horsepower option. Nobody would even touch the 2.0 turbo.
Well, you've probably only talked to enthusiasts, though. Enthusiasts are like, fine.
Mid-size trucks.
Mid-size truck, cheap, oh gosh, 4.
Gladiator?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad
4.
said this was a 5.
Really?
He said it was 5. He said all of these but one were a 5.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to say 4. Ooh.
Toyota Tacoma.
A new one? New?
New.
I'd probably put it at 1.
Everyone I've talked to has put this truck at 1.
Yeah, I'd probably
for
put it at
good
1.
reason. Ranger.
Ranger's cool. I'd probably put it at 3 because I know the Colorado's coming.
Canyon.
Canyon, same thing. Yeah, I put that at 2.
Colorado.
Oh. Dang. 5.
You want to know what mine is? Tacoma. Then I would do Gladiator because I love the look of it. I know it's stupid, but I love the look of it. And then I would do Canyon, Colorado, and at the very bottom, the Ranger. And I put the Ranger at the bottom because I drove one for a year and a half.
Oh, that's right.
And by the time I was done, I was on my 4th set of transmission components. And we'd only put 55,000 miles on the thing in a year and a half. It was a work truck. And the inside was cramped. It wasn't that efficient. There was nothing exceptional about it except for how unexceptional it was.
Yeah. All right. What am I doing?
Used gamble under 40K.
Oh,
You don't know the
gosh.
next one before you rank it. So rank 1 to 5. You don't know what's coming next.
Used
what is that?
Porsche, Panamera.
Panamera. What year?
Oh, that's not the most recent one.
No.
That's
These are all cars I've found an example of under $40,000.
okay. What, 2012?
2009.
Really? Okay, wow. Okay, and what am I ranking it? 4. I don't want to go 5.
Okay.
4. Ooh, 4 under 40K.
It was really hurting. It was not
Is
good.
this a picture of it?
No. These are just example photos. It was in bad state.
I think we need to get like original subject matter pictures.
Probably. We'll have to do that for next time. But Lamborghini
Is the whole
Gallardo-
other side of it burnt to the ground?
No. You're thinking of a
so
Mira.
40K and then 100K in repairs?
Right, because the question is, what car are you going to enjoy the most and probably spend the least on repairs?
Long term.
Yeah, so it's a measurement of what car do you like the most, and you have to weigh in how much am I going to spend on this thing moving forward.
I say 5.
5 on that one?
Yeah.
Because it's got to be really rough.
It's 40K for a Gallardo. Like, yeah, 5. Okay, I regret that. Bentley, was it Continental
GT? Convertible with the W12.
Jeez.
That's a 2005?
You need to have pictures of the source material. next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I'd say 3.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's going to be a pricey fix. It is underneath just a Volkswagen, but...
Yeah, but still. I mean, these depreciate like rocks, though.
The G-Wagon, yep.
So, yeah, I'd say I put it at a 2.
A 2? Okay.
No, I put it at 1.
Why? Just to bother me?
No, because I feel
gosh.
like what's coming is worse.
This is a W220
Dang
S
it.
class.
I should put that at 1.
Yeah.
Dang it. Yeah, number 2 then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This is...
It's a W220
Is that a Maybach or
class.
Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I should get the original source material photos, but I did find each of those under 40K.
In various stages of decay.
Right. I think the best bet's this one, then the Porsche.
Yeah, probably.
But I will say that a friend of mine who has a Taycan just got an email and a phone call from her Porsche dealership that said, hey, if you're using a 240 volt charger, stop, because they do catch on fire, and only use 120 volt, which means she can just plug into a regular old household outlet, which means in her Taycan, that's between 12 and 14 miles for an overnight charge.
That's true.
So
For how long? Till they get a fix or just...
until they mail her out a new cable. It's a cable problem. She can also buy a cable up to $600 and they'll reimburse her, which is cool. But they did not give a time when they were going to send out a new cable. So if somebody doesn't buy one, then they have a paperweight. They have a $200,000 paperweight in their garage.
I mean, they can still keep charging it.
Yeah, it might take until they give them a new cable to actually go to the grocery store. But
You just drive it with like a generator in the back.
yeah, a little Honda generator in it.
Just get free. Inefficient.
All right. Our next segment is the obscure car highlight. This is the Isuzu V-Cross, also known in some regions as the VX. What you're seeing here is the concept on the left, shown at the 1993 Tokyo Auto Show, and then what actually came to production in 97, I believe, in Tokyo. It finally came to the U.S. in 98 or 99.
Mm-hmm.
And the yellow is the most flattering color I could find. So, some interesting facts about the V-Cross. It's compact two-door crossover SUV with aggressive styling. I don't know if I completely agree with that. The lower half is completely covered in plastic cladding, and it looks very similar to the concept that was shown in 93. Limited production in the U.S. from 99 to 2001. These are not a common vehicle. a little over 4,000 units were sold over its lifespan, which by comparison, Lamborghini Aventador sold almost 12,000 units over its lifespan.
Jeez.
So you're almost 3 times more likely to see an Aventador.
I think I got you beat on rarity, though,
Okay.
for my obscure car.
I will say the Polar White Pearl is a one-of-one color. They only made one of them, or at least one was optioned with that color. It's a white color with like kind of a pearly iridescent glow to it.
So that's the Via Cross to go for.
That is the one to go for. I did some digging on the forums.
Oh, no.
The Isuzu Via Cross forums, if you can believe they exist.
I can't.
It died in a crash, so
Oh.
it doesn't exist anymore. But it actually shares a lot of components with the Trooper, non-surprisingly. And for the time, it actually had a pretty advanced computer-controlled four-wheel drive torque-on-demand system that had 12 sensors that would detect wheel spin and redirect power to the wheels that had the most traction, which for 97 is
That's pretty advanced.
pretty
But have you looked at it?
Looks like this.
She's showing a picture of
A hiking sandal.
a hiking sandal.
That's
I mean, that's not unfair.
oh jeez.
I think that was pretty
It looks more like a croc.
How did you
to
come up
me.
with that so quick?
I've been thinking about it since earlier, and I finally looked up a picture. I'm sure I could find a better one, but just like the tilt protection kits.
Do you have an obscure vehicle you'd like to show us?
I do. Have you heard of the Chrysler Turbine?
I have, but only because of the one episode of Jay
Jay
Leno's
Leno's
Garage that I saw.
Yeah, so I saw that episode of Jay Leno's Garage, and it was fascinating to me. So they called it the Chrysler Turbine because they're from Michigan, but it's clearly a turbine engine,
Okay.
right? So what you're seeing there on the left is a picture of the engine bay. Weird.
Yep.
And then the one on the right, obviously, the Jet Age inspired that design. I think that thing looks amazing.
Those headlights and like scalped fenders look like little turbines.
The chrome lines and then the vents on the side next to the headlights right up to the front like they would be on an airplane.
Yeah.
Really cool. Really, really cool. And then the black top so that the whole body of the car looks like one sort of wing. I
Yeah.
think the whole thing looks amazing to me.
Okay.
So let me share with you the tragedy of the Chrysler Turbine.
Oh gosh.
So Chrysler, during the jet age, experimented with the idea of automotive jet propulsion. So that is a jet engine. A few companies were toying with the idea at the time, but the one that made it the furthest came from Chrysler. 55 examples were built in 1963, and they were used in a user program to put miles on the design in real world scenarios. So in total, they gathered over 1 million miles of data on those cars, on 55 cars over about a year and a
Wow,
half.
that's a lot of driving.
It is a lot, but 55 cars going 1 million miles is actually not that many miles per car. But they did notice some things. They found that some benefits included low maintenance, a high power to weight ratio because the engine weighed less than the 200 pounds less than the comparative V8 they would have put in it,
Okay.
which is great, and produced similar power numbers. They said that the durability was excellent. The amount of components that wore out was less than that of a V8 engine over the same amount of miles.
Okay.
And then the last thing they noticed, which was great, was how smooth it was to drive. That the whole thing, there was no rumble. It was like they had 20 years more advanced suspension and sound deadening. That the car was apparently extremely smooth. So why didn't they make a bunch of them? Why aren't we all driving jet engine
Can I
cars?
take a guess?
Why? What would you guess?
I've seen the episode of Jay Leno's Garage, but I can't recall why. I cannot imagine it was terribly efficient.
It was almost gallons per mile
Okay.
instead of miles per gallon.
Okay. That
So
would
you're
make
not
sense.
wrong, but that is not the only problem.
Okay.
So it was not able to outweigh the problem of the sound of a jet engine spooling up at a stoplight.
Ah.
Could you imagine a plane taking off 5 feet from you? And heaven forbid this thing is popular at all and you have 12 at a stoplight shaking the local architecture to pieces. Could you imagine? These things would rev up over 40,000 RPM. I mean, they're insane. Yeah. the idea that you would have something so loud on the streets is mind-blowing.
Do you think there'd ever be a way to overcome the sound, or no?
Maybe, but the benefits of the weight and all that other stuff
Would go out the window if
as soon as you started trying to choke the engine to make it quieter.
try
don't
to
know.
like stuff a sock in the mouth of a jet engine. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see that working at all. But I'm not an engineer. Maybe someone could make it work. So there were other practical considerations like poor fuel economy that you listed, and basically zero chance of passing the upcoming fuel regulations of the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, this was way before that, though.
Right. This is 63.
Yeah, they still had another decade before that was a concern.
Right. They would also need to train technicians on repairing what are essentially aircraft components.
Right.
So all the dealerships would now have to have airplane mechanics on staff, which seems like a problem. Still, the car stuck around until 1979 when, partly as a condition of the receipt of a government loan, Chrysler agreed to destroy 46 of them.
So wait, did they actually sell any?
No.
They're just concepts?
Except to Jay Leno.
Oh, okay. So they had 55. 46 were destroyed.
9 remain. Jay Leno, of course,
has one.
So the 6 of them are in museums around the world. 2 of them are still owned by Chrysler, and Jay Leno has one. He is the only person outside of a museum or Chrysler.
The only private owner. Wow.
The only private owner, which is really cool.
How do you register that?
I don't know. As an airplane, I guess.
Imagine being the DMV closest to Jay Leno.
Oh my! Could you?
I got a hard time with his doors.
You're like, hey Jay, what do you got today? Oh, it's got 6 wheels and wings. Of course it does.
What's the VIN on that?
Jay's like, this is back from when they only had 4 VIN numbers.
Yeah. So they should have made the Chrysler turbine. Is what you're saying?
No, that was a bad idea too. But really cool as a story, and the design's amazing. They should have made a Chrysler turbine and put a 426 in it. But the 426 wouldn't exist for another 7 years.
Would it fit?
Oh, you make it fit. It's a 426.
All right, our next segment is overrated or underrated. I'm going to list 5 cars, and you tell me if they're overrated or underrated. Ready?
Okay.
Nissan R34 Skyline.
I'm going to say that does it have to be one or the other?
You could say properly rated.
I'm going to say that has a legendary spot in car culture. I think it is overrated in the U.S.
Overrated in the U.S.
Because we couldn't get them.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Cybertruck.
Both.
It's overrated and underrated.
It's actually on my overrated, underrated list.
Really? Okay.
I would say this is both.
Both.
Because the engineering involved is vastly underrated.
Okay.
And the car itself and what it does as a truck is overrated.
All right. Modern Challengers.
Challenger, wide body, scat pack.
No, 3rd generation. So 2008 to now. Overrated or underrated?
Properly rated.
Yeah.
I think that this is sort of the opposite. The engineering involved up until recently with the Demon was pretty uninspiring. It was pretty much just like, hey, what if we made the engine bigger? And we kept the same chassis designed by Mercedes in the early 90s or late 80s. It was pretty underneath, but if you ask anybody what a muscle car is, the only thing that really qualifies when you look at it from 100 feet away is a Challenger. Mustang's a sports car. Camaro's a sports car.
Yeah.
Challenger's a muscle car.
Okay.
I think it is properly rated. It may even be underrated because because it's the only thing you can get like it.
That's fair.
Overrated.
911 Turbo S.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Because anybody who knows anything about these cars that I've seen drive them says you want the naturally aspirated ones.
Okay.
I could tell immediately from the scoop in front of the rear wheel it was a turbo.
Okay. Overrated. Audi R8. We're talking about just the whole...
It's always been underrated.
I agree.
That car has always been underrated. It's always been the Gallardo's cheap cousin. But the fact that you can get luggage in that car and get the driving experience of being behind the wheel of a Lamborghini,
And it's not as
flashy.
you could probably just even forget you're driving.
If I were to pick a supercar, I'd have a hard time not picking that one.
If you could have one car, that's a great supercar to just drive every day. Okay. All right. So real quick, underrated or overrated? Nissan R34 GTR.
Overrated. Tesla Cybertruck, both.
Tesla
Challenger,
Cybertruck, both.
properly rated. Porsche 911 Turbo is overrated, and the Audi R8 is underrated.
Okay. I tend to agree with that. The only thing I would change, I think the Challenger might be a little bit overrated. And I say that as a Challenger guy. I think of the Dodge Challenger the same way I look at Rick and Morty.
Okay.
I love Rick and Morty. I hate the community around Rick and Morty. I love the Challenger. I hate what the community around the Challenger has devolved into. Like, the number of Challengers and Chargers in auctions and scrapyards, like,
Because
it'll make your head spin.
I've purchased cars at auction, or one car at auction, and the volume of
Chrysler products
that have been spun into trees.
insane.
Like, the joke is always the Mustang is the one that runs over pedestrians and can't make it out of Cars and Coffee without spinning out.
Mhm.
It's always the Chargers and Challengers. There are hundreds of them. If you want a cheap Charger or Challenger, they're out there.
The other one I'll disagree with is the 911 Turbo S. I used to think it was overrated. I thought, when I think of Porsche, I think, yeah, cool car, great heritage, super fast,
Good
well
engineering,
engineered.
yep.
Yeah. But Porsche people are like, I kind of think of them the same way as Corvette people. Like a little bit too into the brand loyalty. Yeah, exactly. However, I got to ride in a 911 Turbo S last year, and it absolutely blew my mind. I have never in my life experienced acceleration like that. Not taking off a runway in an airplane, not a roller coaster, any other car in my life, electric car or otherwise. It was
So
wild.
you're saying properly rated, because it is.
I would say properly rated. I would say it's. They get overhyped about it, but the hype is generally well founded.
Okay, my turn.
Okay. Let's hear it. Oh, that's easy.
Mazda Miata.
Way overrated.
No.
You
You anarchist.
I'd say it's underrated, but in the car community, it's overrated. In the general population, people don't consider it, and they really should. Because it's a fantastic little car.
I could throw out some statistics that will blow your mind.
Let's hear it.
This thing is so light that in order to equal a Dodge Charger, you would need to put another Miata on the roof.
Yeah. I mean,
This thing is so light that it is more than 50 pounds lighter than a Fiat 500. And on top of that, it has all the modern safety equipment. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about this car, and I think it is underrated by everybody.
You say that, I was just thinking of the Transformers, like, my Miata.
All right, next one. G-Wagon.
Oh, so overrated. So overrated. Now, they're surprisingly capable.
I can't believe how many times the G-Wagon's come up.
It's
been up like 7 times.
I did not think this was going to be the G-Wagon episode. Okay, one thing that really bothers me about it that really, like, it's surprisingly capable. It's surprisingly fast, too.
For the G63, yeah.
I can't get over the side exhaust and how much that has to encroach on, like, the breakover angle.
But the side exhaust is a great example of how this car
It's never planned to actually go off-road.
Yeah, it's never actually going to go off-road. It's the side exhaust is admitting to like the part that nobody wants to say out loud, which is that this is not
exactly.
This car, as I've expressed before, is only used to travel in Beverly Hills from one affair to the next.
Yep.
You see your yoga instructor, then you go see your tennis coach, and then you get home in time for the pool boy. That's what this car is for.
It's like the other member of the Kardashian family. It has
That's
much
exactly-
airtime on that show as any of the sisters do.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't.
What I find
claim to
really
have seen
silly
it.
to me is the juxtaposition of that side exhaust admitting that this is never meant to go off road, and the brush guard on the front.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's just so
That brush guard is just
silly.
for poor people.
For paparazzi.
Yeah.
There you go. It's for paparazzi. Station wagons as a general class.
As a general class in the U.S., severely underrated. They're great.
I would agree. This thing has more cargo space than a Durango.
Yeah. And all the seats fold flat, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. You can also get the S90 version, which isn't the station wagon, with a long wheelbase. And in my driving position, I went and test drove one. I could sit cross-legged on the floorboard behind my driving position and not touch either the front seat or the back seat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd
It's
say as a whole,
crazy.
station wagons are underrated in the U.S., but I don't think it's ever going to change. Well, we're kind of getting into station wagon territory with some of these smaller crossovers.
Yeah, we are. People don't like to think of their Subaru Outbacks
But they
as
totally
station
are.
wagon.
They totally
An
are.
Outback has always been a station wagon.
Yeah.
It's a station wagon with a little bit of lift. But Americans don't buy station wagons unless they have like plastic cladding on the side. I think that looks way better than the same version, which is like the Audi has the all-road instead of the A3, whatever it is, the Avant.
The cladding's right. If you just throw some cladding on there, you're like, okay,
Some
that's
wood
more
wood
acceptable.
trim.
Yeah. Okay, overrated or underrated? The do-it-all car. The car that's supposed to do everything. Oh, I just want one car that can do everything for me.
The crossover SUV.
That's what you end up at with that thinking, yes.
I feel wrong saying either. I don't think they're underrated. I don't think they're over. I think they're properly rated. This is the kind of car that offends me more than the Via Cross does, or any other like Cybertruck or any other out there design. Like this kind of car, as an enthusiast, is I have a more adverse reaction to. I think because if you take this and any other similar product from any other brand and you put them side by side and you make them all gray, you will have a very hard time telling any of them apart. They are the exact same car.
Except for, I would argue, the CX-30, which actually is engaging to drive from what I've heard. But the rest of them, yeah, I mean...
With some exceptions, sure. But
I think, can I offer a phrase to boil down what you're saying?
sure.
Boring is worse than bad.
Yeah. For an enthusiast, yeah. For a lot of people, they want to get from point A to point B as safely and comfortably as possible and not be able to bring extra kids if they need to, be able to bring things home from Home Depot occasionally if they need to, and not have to worry about is there going to be enough space. Like,
Right.
That's what they want.
Yeah, I'm going to say they are overrated because they want some... A buyer of this car wants to be able to haul some stuff around, some bags and maybe some sports equipment for their kids.
Right.
Doesn't do-
Occasional set of skis or
doesn't do
whatever.
that very well because it's pretty small.
Yeah.
They want pretty good efficiency. They want to save on gas, but it doesn't do that very well because it's an SUV. And they want some higher ride height, than sitting down low, but it doesn't do that very well because every other car on the road is bigger than this now.
Yeah.
So every single selling point on this car that could possibly be redeeming, it's not good at. By compromising on everything, you get nothing. That's why I think they're overrated. I think a person would be better off paying half the money for two different cars that did the jobs better. For example, I have a pickup truck that does pickup truck things, and I have a minivan that does minivan things. Minivan is a family car, really high safety rating and great air conditioning. Then I have a pickup truck. And when I need to move lumber or big pieces of furniture or whatever, I have a pickup truck. And you add both of those together, and all of the stuff that I've ever done in repairs and modifications to the truck and all this stuff, all of it together, I'm in at under 20 grand.
Yeah.
For both of those cars put together.
Wow.
You look at something like this that probably is for sale
Starts at
23,
yeah.
23 for the Eclipse Cross, something like that. But this thing, I mean, and then you've got all the dealer markups and all that crap. You're not walking out of there under 30 grand. And 30 grand for whatever people's credit will let them have 7 years or something with this stupid car.
8-9% interest.
Yeah. Just no. You even for the average person that doesn't know anything, this is a dumb choice. This one we've already
Underrated
known.
or overrated? I think it is on average properly rated. I think some things about it are really revolutionary and deserve all the praise they get. I think it's tough. This thing has gotten more publicity than any single car
Ever.
that I can recall.
It's broken out of just the enthusiast.
That's the thing. I was really excited about the mid-engine Corvette, but that's, a car guy's thing. I was excited about the new Demon. Again, a car guy. This has transcended car communities, tech communities, even like a person who doesn't care about cars can see that and tell you exactly what it is.
Everyone knows what that is.
So considering the hype, it's tough to live up to that amount of attention and hype, right? Like, it doesn't matter how good it is, how good it may or may not be. So I think in some regards it's a little bit overrated just because it has had so much attention and recognition. But I think in some ways it's a little bit underrated.
So you're going to say properly rated?
I would say properly rated, yeah.
Mazda Miata, G-Wagon, the idea of a do-it-all car, station wagons, and a Cybertruck is somehow both.
Mazda Miata is generally underrated. I think the car community gets a little crazy with their Miatas. Their Miata obsession.
I think that... Have you driven one?
I've not. But maybe change my mind.
I got to drive one this week.
Yeah?
I went to test drive it because I didn't want to speak on this without having been behind the wheel.
Okay.
And I wanted to cure my Miata desire. It's cheaper to insure. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. It's just everything an enthusiast would want. And that's why it's stuck around. Even though, most people look at that and go, like, I don't even know what that car is. It looks like exotic. The average person. You ask them how much.
The average person thinks Miata is exotic.
Well,
I think it's a sports car.
The original NA Miata, when it came out, people were asked how much they would pay for that. And they generally said they would pay
a lot more than
3 times the cost. So I would say that thing is, just on the engineering alone, it is underrated.
Okay. So overrated, underrated. Mazda Miata, I think general population underrated. For most people underrated. I think the car community gets a little wild with their praise. G-Wagon, I think
crazy
overrated. Crazy overrated.
I can't even imagine. I couldn't imagine the embarrassment of having that in my driveway.
The idea of a do-it-all car. You're thinking basically a crossover SUV. I don't really properly rated, I guess. It's an uninspired category. Station wagons, severely underrated in the U.S. People don't appreciate station wagons here.
No.
They are subtly buying them by buying the crossover SUVs, but they'll get offended if you call it a station wagon. And the Cybertruck is, yes, somehow both underrated and overrated.
Cool. What else we got? I think that's it for the night.
We'll conclude it there. So this has been our first podcast, the Bose Bros podcast. I don't even think we said the name of the podcast in the beginning.
You said part of the Bose Bros media.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is the Bose Bros podcast. I've been your host, Mason.
I've been your other host, Jordan.
And thanks for joining us. We'll have another podcast sometime next week. Thanks.